Welcome back to the Devy Hour. Happy Thursday if you're listening with us live or if you check us out here in the next few hours. Otherwise, happy whatever day it is for you. I'm Roto Heat Brad back with Des Deuce at Twitter. We're hanging out tonight. We're gonna have a little fun and maybe potentially roast a draft that I just got done doing. And I can't say I got done doing. I've been done with this draft for probably like better part of a week now, but it's still going. But I wanted to take a look back because this was a draft we were talking about 2 weeks ago when we were on the show. And I actually was completely wrong. So after the show, I was putting my show notes together from what we talked about. And I started looking back at the board and making sure I had everything, kind of was checking my work and realized that a bunch of guys that we talked about were already drafted, both copies. And I somehow missed it on the tab on this dude's spreadsheet because it's all tracked on Google Docs. So I was it was my mistake. So I had to go back through based off of the guys we had been talking about and then put them in order based on that. So we still drafted guys that we had been talking about in the order we had talked about them, but it just looked a little different because I was a bonehead. So we're going to have fun with that tonight. We're going to look at how this draft fell out. And we're going to talk about some of these guys because some of these guys and even the couple of guys I drafted, we didn't talk about. But before we do that, Des, how we doing, brother? How's the world treating you over there?
I'm good, man. It's funny you were saying that you was talking about how you did that draft and we was chatting prior to this the show tonight and like, oh man, I forgot all about. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, so I'm really looking forward to see who you drafted and where the other guys or the other people that's in this draft drafted. And learn a little bit more about like this copy league because like I'm not too familiar with that when it comes to Devy. So like and I've heard about it, but I'm not in any kind of league like that. So it'll be good to talk about that tonight. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's weird because it's not something I've done before either. So basically the way this league works is there's just 2 copies of every player. So you can have 2 Jonathan Taylors, 2 Patrick Mahomes, 2, Quinn Ewers, which we'll see. Quinn Ewers both go in the first 5 picks, 2 of them, and you can have 2 copies because this league is basically split up into there's 24 teams. Gosh, I got to look now. I believe it's 24 teams. Let me see here. So let's see here. So we've got, and it's actually multiple divisions. So that's the other thing is there's multiple divisions. So you can have multiple copies spread out throughout it. And it's a pretty straightforward super flex league. Otherwise, there's not a ton of crazy scoring. It's the 2 copies part is the craziest part of it. So it's other than that, it's a fairly standard league. So it's kind of weird in that you would look at it and you're like, oh man, there must be some weird kind of out of left field scoring, but there really isn't. It's just pretty standard super flex with some, a little bit of bumps in for PPR and some of that other goodness. So really the big difference is just the fact that it is 2 copies of each player. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to do a little show and tell. So we are going to look through, I put it in order as easy as I could. So this is, and we're talking Devy-Depleted. So what's happening here is this league is a couple years in. So what's happening is that we have now seen, the big names, the CJ Strouds and the Bryce Youngs of the world, and all of these guys have been drafted, years and years ago, and they're already on rosters. So at this point now it's we are looking at what's next. Maybe some guys that are starting to pop, maybe guys that are young that are looking to get chances soon. So a Devy-Depleted draft is just that. Like plenty of Devys have already been gone. So the pool of Devy options is depleted. So with that being said, I think this league is actually 3 years in. I think this was a 2020 startup league. I took it over an orphan roster this year just before this draft started. So I was working off of somebody else. Well, not somebody else's. We redrafted these 2 rosters and then jumped into the Devy draft and the rookie draft. And the rookie and the Devy draft just kind of back to back each other. So with that being said, we're gonna hit it and we're gonna run with it and we'll just kind of see where the conversation goes. So I highlighted the ones that were my picks because I had 5 picks to make. I kind of maneuvered myself in such a way that I could fill up my taxi squad because it's 15-man taxi squads. And all 15 of my guys, I wanted to be Devys. Like I'm not looking for rookies to go on my taxi squad. And I have rookies on my team, but they're not going to my taxi squad. I want all Devys. So at pick 1, we see Quinn Ewers, and actually we see him at 1 and 4. So both copies of him get drafted in the first, in the first 5 picks. We talked a little bit about him on last show, and I did see that he inked a deal with the name, image, likeness folks. I mean, this dude's, making bank already. As the article I saw today, driving off in an Aston Martin because he signed his NIL deal. So this kid's already preparing for the big life. But what do you think about Quinn Ewers? How do you feel about him as a quarterback? Do you think this is a prospect that takes Texas to the next level and then kind of takes the NFL by storm? Where are you at with him?
Well, I mean, with Quinn Ewers, I mean, at this point, for what we have, and like as far as I'm saying is like the tape that we have as far as from high school, because just if anybody doesn't know about Quinn Ewers, he opted out. I want to say his senior year of high school, and then he went to Ohio State. He went, of course, he was behind CJ Stroud after this last year at Ohio State, and then he transferred to Texas. So, I mean, he has a lot of hype. I mean, you have the I want to say the perfect score on 24/7 composite. So, like, I mean, it's one of those things where you're very excited about a prospect like that. So, and from what I've seen, I mean, he looks like he has all the tools and everything. It's just going out there and playing with amongst the other competition and things like that. So, yeah, I probably would have made that pick right there with Quinn Ewers, because I mean, most of these leagues there are they're super flex leagues, so you're gonna want to get a quarterback like that, and then someone like that as far as a prospect like that. Why not go with someone that you can be very excited about, and Quinn Ewers with Texas, with Xavier Worthy, with Bijan Robinson, and Isaiah Nair. You can go down the list. I mean, they're loaded and they're primed to be to make some noise this year in this season. So you hope that he could just fulfill his hype and everything. So yeah, I'm really excited about Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, he's an interesting prospect, and I love how on 247, I always love, because people either love or hate comping guys, right? Like this guy looks like this guy, and I love the comp here. Phillip Rivers. I don't know
Oh
that
wow.
I know, so 247 comping to Phillip Rivers, and I'm like, I don't get like I don't necessarily know how you comp them to a statue, right? Like Phillip Rivers had a good big arm, and was a smart quarterback, but I mean, Quinn Ewers can move and get out of the pocket and extend the play and do some things like that with his feet, and
Yeah.
still be pretty accurate, from what we've seen at least so far. So it's like, okay, so getting a guy like Quinn Ewers, like the comps, it's hard to compare them really, right? Perfect 247 score, is one of those guys that everyone thought was kind of the next big thing, and then wound up not being able to overtake CJ Stroud there at Ohio State. So he's one of those. It's an interesting case. I want to see what happens at Texas. I mean, when we talked about it either last week or I mean, either 2 weeks ago or the last show before, Texas is a team that's very much in transition, taking a bunch of the guys from Alabama, from the coaching staff and things like that, and elevating them into leader positions. It'll be interesting to see how Texas changes, because they have a lot of pieces here. And you see, even on this list, Texas, you'll see a lot of guys drafted in this Devy draft, Worthy and Blue and guys like that. So it's interesting to see that even the outside perception of Texas is already like, this team's going to be turning around and people want pieces of those Devy players on their roster. So I love I love the idea of it. I wasn't going to bite. I like my quarterbacks in this league, so I was willing to go, listen, I'm going to look at some of these other positions where I need some help, maybe sooner rather than later, which is why the second pick, I took a guy we did talk about for sure, in Sean Tucker. He was one of the top guys on our list when we were building our big board a couple weeks back on the show. So I went with Sean Tucker. I do love most of his game. I think he can kind of, he projects as one of those guys that could do it all. Looks like he could be a receiver out of the backfield if he needed to, big, good runner, physical. What's more to say about a guy like Sean Tucker? Is there anything that stands out about him that you really like or dislike?
Well, First off, before I go into Sean Tucker, because yes, we did talk about him, but shout out to your hat, man. You got a Roto Heat hat going on here, the trucker hat with the that's pretty sweet, man. I don't know if anybody's watching on the or going to be able to see it on the YouTube and things like that, but anybody listening, man, that's a pretty nice hat there.
We bring in
Yeah,
the
the
heat, baby.
Roto Heat merch, man. Yeah, let's do it. But no, um, Sean Tucker, he just like you were saying, he's really good running back. He burst on the scene last year. Really good athletic profile, track runner. Speed, explosiveness. I think he could be a really good running back and sneaky. Coming up into the next draft or whatever, if he can continue to prosper from what he started off from last year. Now he does play for Syracuse, and that team. I'm not sure how from how each year is going to transition and things like that, because they might kind of key in on him this year, because I don't who else is going to be making plays on that team and things like that. So they might kind of key on him as far as putting a lot in the box and things like that. But you never know, man. Sean Tucker, he's been good, and at the end of the day, when you look at Devy, you're looking at upside and potential, and he showed it last year. So man, yeah, definitely. That's
Yeah,
not a bad.
what do you have, like 1,500 yards on the ground? Something like that.
Yeah,
Like
something
he was
crazy. Yeah, he's solid, man. He's solid. He's a solid pick there, especially in a depleted draft. And if you feel comfortable with where your quarterbacks and things like that at, because like I can understand if anybody be like, well, why wouldn't you go get Quinn Ewers again right there if you had another copy of him? But in the same situation, uh it's tough in Devy with when it comes to quarterbacks. So running backs is kind of a more of a better bet, and he showed that he could be a solid back in the league. And at the end of the day, you want, if he's not going to be a good like a week to week starter for you, he can at least be a bye week filler and do some things. I think he at the worst he's going to be that, because I think Sean Tucker is a very good NFL running back prospect.
And when I watch him, I try to do comps, but I don't always get it right. So this is going to be my personal opinion. I see Rashad Mendenhall, sorry, Illinois guy, played in Pittsburgh for a while, was a thing
Okay.
for a minute. Like, he's got that kind of burst and explosion, the ability to be kind of a bowling ball between the tackles, or kind of bounce it outside and use that speed to take it. So that was, when I watch him, that's kind of the vibe I get. Now, obviously, some people love, some people hate that. But that's kind of the guy that I look at, and I'm like, I love the profile. I think he's 5'10", he's 210 right now, and he's still, another year in the system, in the weight room, getting ready. Like, and this guy could easily probably put on another, 5-7 pounds of muscle and keep that explosion, and really come to the league and just have a perfect form and body and frame, and to be ready for taking on the role. And it's like, I like it. I'm gonna buy some of that stock and see what happens, because I think he's a really talented kid. And I was glad, and shout out to Jason, because Jason, one of our Debbie compadres here on Roto Heat, is one of the guys that was really banging the table for him early on. And I was like, yeah,
Oh,
Syracuse
nice.
running back, so I was like, all right, I'll take another look. He wasn't super high on my lists, rankings over at rotoheat.com for all of us. You can see our Debbie rankings. And then I watched him more and more. I watched him like, all right, I think I'm in. I think I like this kid. So that being said, this is not the Sean Tucker love hour, so we will continue on. And we'll bounce around a little bit, because I want to make sure we talk over the picks that I made, so that we can either roast or love the picks, either or. So I'm going to jump down. So I had the 1-2, and then another pick later in the first, because remember, when I did the dispersal draft, I was grabbing all the early Devy picks I could. So I went Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback, Miami. This is a guy I believe we touched on a little bit. I don't think we were like all over him, but the more and more I watch, just watch this kid, I'm like, all right, I want to take a chance on him. I don't typically take a chance on a lot of quarterbacks that have any question marks. I mean, I get a little nervous drafting quarterbacks in Devy just because you never know, right? They're just not, they can't all be elite. But I love this kid's size. I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4", somewhere around there. I was a 4-star kid that goes to Miami that looks like he can do it. He slings the ball well. It looks like he's got good zip. It looks like he's got good ball placement. I'll be interested to hear what you think on him, but I was willing to take a chance on him and see, just because the only other quarterback I wanted in this draft was Ewers, and Ewers, both copies went before I could get back to him. So what do you think?
Yeah. If you wasn't gonna take Ewers with your second overall pick, you pretty much was not gonna get him coming back at that. What was that? Look like the 11th pick. So
yeah,
I mean,
about the 11.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, Tyler Van Dyke, he's not a bad pick there. When you're looking at like a Devy-Depleted draft, you're trying to at least try to find some guys that can give you some upside and things like that. And he's one of those guys that a lot of the Devy community has been talking about recently, and at least I want to say to the end of the last year and things like that, because he definitely came on the scene and kind of did his thing at Miami later on in the season. So and then they got a whole new situation there with like a coaching change and regime change. So you never know. Like, I mean, maybe something that he can kind of build from that and continue to show and prove where he could be a solid prospect for the 23 class, because just like you said, at the end of the day, you want to try to find them diamonds in the rough that's gonna get to your dynasty rosters earlier than not. We all want to be excited about the young freshmen in the first couple years.
Hot new names.
Yeah, the hot they look good, and I'm a victim of that sometimes. But then you gotta realize too, or in what I learned the last couple of years, especially in Devy, because you're looking for upside. You're looking for people that's gonna or process is gonna get to your rosters and gonna provide points for you, because you're not getting any points while they're on your Devy rosters or while they're on your taxi squad. So you want to be able to just identify like the guys that's going to go out there and it's going to give you good draft capital or be in the right opportunity to get you to go out there and play. But just like you said, with quarterback, it's rough because you never know. And at the end of the day, if you feel really good about a quarterback, by all means, man, shoot your shot with that one, because we have a lot of running backs and wide receivers, and even to an extent like some tight ends out there where they got the hybrid guys where you might want to not gamble on like the quarterbacks. And when you look at it like the past couple years and things, with like the Spencer Rattlers and DJ Hughes, you never know. But Tyler Van Dyke, he's definitely a good quarterback though. So I wouldn't knock anybody that would go and pick him up though. Not at all.
Yeah. For me, it was like
that's a very good pick in the Devy-Depleted draft. That's a very good pick.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was between him and Anthony Richardson there, and as you can see, Anthony Richard, both copies win. And I like both. Like, I really have them very similar when it comes to just kind of the projection I have for them. That, I mean, either one of them I could see making it, or either one of them I could see being the next great college quarterback that don't make it in the league. So, in my mind, I was like, I like the frame, I like the big arm of Van Dyke. I think there's some interesting intangibles there that I'm gonna take a shot on him. So I'm going to jump down to my next pick, and then we'll kind of Tarantino it and go back up to the top and talk about some of the other ones. I grabbed Dante Demas Jr. from Maryland. I don't know what it is about this kid. Like, I just really like this player. I think, and Maryland, they've been able to produce some receivers over the years, but Demas is a kid that I think when we get to him in the draft, we're going to look at him, and I think he's going to be under the radar still, just because of Maryland and what he does. But he looks really good coming in and out of his breaks. I think he's got, plus route running for being at the school he's at. I think he's better than Maryland deserves, quite honestly. But he's an interesting player, interesting cat, and I think he's got a chance to be one of those guys that we look at on draft day as a day 2 kind of pick. And I want to hear your comments on him. What do you think about Demas?
Yeah, Demas. Another one. Just like I said, that looks like a really really good pick. Where you're looking at that part in the draft, because I mean the Maryland prospect. I mean he was really balling out last year prior to his injury. He just looked like he was just a prospect where, like, the NFL, his size, athleticism, his speed, the way he was able to get contested catches and things like that. He just looked like a NFL wide receiver. So that's a very good pick. Hopefully, he can bounce back from his injury and things like that. I mean, Maryland is a really solid team. They're not great, but they do have a solid program and things like that with little Tua's little brother, and then they got Raheem Jarrett and things like that. So you never know. I'm hoping Demas can bounce back, because he definitely was playing very well.
Well, and I love Timothy's comment. It's good to see you again, brother, in the chat. He's absolutely, dude, 6'4", and he's very smooth. Like, I mean, I love to see him in and out. And he was their best player easily while he was on the field, throughout, I would say, probably the better part of half the 2021. I mean, him and Jared, I mean, both of these guys should get their name called somewhere around day 2 when they get in the draft. And it would not surprise me in the least. I love both of these players.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and we're in a minute back, you said you were talking about guys we fall in love with. So I've been, I'm a big fan of the Draft Network. I'm a subscriber. I'm in their Discord. I talk and chop it up with the guys and listen to the shows and this, that, and the other. These are 2 guys that I've been listening to them talk about that I spent more time looking into, and these are both like young guys, freshmen. Jalen Milroe and then 2 and a pick later, Malik Murphy, both quarterbacks. I was like, I want these guys stashed on my squad. They are buried right now, though. Obviously, we talked about Quinn Ewers at Texas, and we've talked about, Bryce Young, and I think Ty Simpson's at Bama. I mean, Jalen Milroe, but both of these guys are big, physical, athletic, strong arm kids that, man, these guys I could easily make the case that both of these guys are guys that we see in the draft in 3 years, but probably not because of the team that they're on currently. I could see these guys jumping the transfer portal just because they don't get their moment to send to the starting quarterback role, but they're very good. I don't know if you've really looked into either of them. I've been watching a little bit more high school tape on these dudes, but man, I'm a big fan. Okay, so let me pull Jacob's comment up before you get to it. Low hanging fruit, but Milroe reminds me of Jalen Hurts. You know what? He's a starting quarterback in the league. So if I drafted a freshman that makes it to the league and gets a job, then I see that as a win for me and Debbie, because half the time, half the time I get the Brock Purdy's of the world, the guys that just aren't going to get it, So what have you looked at either of these kids yet? What do you think about them if you have?
Yeah, actually, I have, just because, of course, I play in C2C leagues, because these guys are getting picked up in C2C league drafts, like startups on the college side and things like that. So I'm very familiar with Jalen Milroe and Malik Murphy. But now, what I can say, what rounds can you tell me what rounds
these would be? Well, let me go back to the draft. You can talk a little bit on it as I find this.
Well, yeah, because the reason why I said that, because I just know those are some deep.
So this would have been round 2. So this was the second round, pick 12 and pick 14. So it was late seconds.
Oh, okay. And then how many rounds was this draft?
Well, the Devy part of the draft will be 8 rounds, and there's 24 picks around, because there's 24 teams. So they're later in the second round.
Right. Okay. So I mean, that's not bad, especially when you're talking about 24 teams in each round. So with that being said, like, just like I said, like they're both are very solid Devy prospects because I mean Jalen Monroe he showed even in the Alabama spring game that he could be a very sneaky prospect to pick up because he has rushing upside. Um he can throw the ball. I mean, you're playing for Alabama, so you're around the best talent and everything. So and something about Saban is just he may just go with like the more consistent guy if Milroe can come out there and play a little consistent after what's the quarterback that comes that's in there now.
Well, Bryce Young, and then I think Ty Simpson
Young,
is
and
the
then
guy
you
right
got
behind him.
You got Ty Simpson that
Yeah.
could be there next year. So with Ty Simpson, like it's a little, you never know how he could come in. I mean, Ty Simpson looked really good too. I mean, he looked pretty solid. But like at the end of the day, Jalen Monroe he's not bad. And then Malik Murphy, very highly touted quarterback. He definitely went to Texas. Bad spot with Ewers
Quinn,
going
yeah.
there and things like that. But I mean, you never know. I mean, transfer portal and things like that. I liked him. He looked good. He looked like he could be a solid prospect and things like that. And at the end of the day, if he can maybe be behind Quinn Ewers this year and exercise like the transfer portal and things like that later on, you never know. He can go somewhere and be a solid prospect and then go into the NFL and do some things for you. So not mad at that. Not mad at those picks there though, because I like both of them. Devy aspect wise, I mean, we'll see because I mean that's how you feel about all your Devy pieces that you pick up. You never know how they're gonna be, so we'll see.
Well, and when I first saw Malik Murphy, I didn't see him in game action. I saw him on the sideline. Like I just kind of pulled up his film to see, and whatever they were doing, he was standing on the sideline. I was like, that dude looks like a linebacker. I mean, dude's massive, 6'4". He's like
Oh yeah,
220,
he's big.
230. He's a big dude. But then when you see him on the field, I'm like, I bet this is what Oakland wanted Jamarcus Russell to have been, all those years back. I mean, because he was all over the place. He was moving, and people like he was shaking dudes, and I mean, I think ankles were breaking like on the spot, and then he was just rifling it down the field. I'm like, man, if they get this kid in a system where they can really kind of develop and help him speed up his release and getting out and getting the ball out quick, like this kid could be dangerous. I mean, and and Texas is a good spot for him. It's just not a good spot because of Quinn Ewers being there. But we can already tell with what we talked about with him doing the NIL deal. Like Quinn Ewers is already looking for the big payday at the NFL. Like this kid's ready to go. I will guarantee that this kid will come out as soon as he gets a chance. I can't imagine him staying the entirety of his college career. Like I got to think he wants into the league to start making that big bank. At least that's what my gut would tell me on him.
I mean,
I could be wrong.
No. You're right on point with that. It makes sense because just how everything is going on. I mean, and that talking about the NIL and how all that's going on, that's a whole different animal, a whole different conversation and things like that. But you're right on point with that. I mean, Quinn Ewers already showed with him reclassifying to him going to Ohio State and then still getting a good, pretty much good deal, NIL deal there, and he wasn't even starting, and then he goes to Texas, and then now he's getting the bag everywhere. So like, I mean, at the end of the day, like where he's at. Is you just hope and pray that if you invest in him that he cashes out on your end as a Devy manager or as a dynasty manager that he's gonna be who you want him to be, and at the end of the day, you want him to at least be a starter, like you know what I mean, at the floor. But you expect him to be a superstar. I mean, the way they're pumping him up and things like that. So if you have him, that's what I would look at it. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. So before we jump back to what the other picks have been so far, let's look at that's my 15-man Devy roster with my 5 picks that I made, and I maneuvered in such a way that I could get my 5 picks made in the first 2 rounds, so I get the guys I wanted. So now I've got I feel like I have a good mix. I don't have any tight ends, which is surprising for me. Normally, I'm a guy that has tight ends on my Devy roster. It just is. But I've got wide receivers, I got quarterbacks, got running backs. So I got Dante Demas Jr. And don't mind some of the spelling. When you put guys in MFL, it isn't easy to fix them if you put them in and do something with them. So I guess they're in, but some of the stuff's a little goofy. So don't mind that. I won't harp on our commission too much. I love him. Dante Demas Jr., wide receiver, Maryland. I got Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama. Obviously, Malik Murphy. I think I have Malik Willis too, but Malik Murphy, quarterback, Texas. Eric Gray from running back, Tennessee. Phil Jerkovic, Boston College quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke, Miami quarterback. Brock Vandegrift, Georgia quarterback. Tank Bigsby, running back, Auburn. Donovan Edwards, running back from the Michigan Wolverines. John Emery Jr., LSU running back. We got Trey Sanders from Bama. We got Sean Tucker, who's Syracuse. Ja'Cory Brooks, who's Oklahoma. Or is that Alabama?
Alabama.
I don't remember now. Alabama. Thank you. Emeka Ibuka, who is with Ohio State. And then Marvin Mims, who's Oklahoma. I don't know why I'm thinking why I flipped Brooks and Mims. So I got a mix of guys that some will make the league sooner than others. You know, I'm obviously gonna be sitting on a couple of these dudes for 3 years at least. What do you think of my taxi squad? What do you think of my Devy squad? My 15 guys, my hopefuls, my potential elite superstars in the league, or did I just make a bunch of bad choices? Where are we at, Des? Don't hold back.
I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's pretty solid. You can't be too mad over that. I'm, you know, just like you said, Demas. I feel like, you know, barring any kind of setback as far as from his recovery from his injury, he should be one of those day 2, day 3 draft capital guys. So like at the end of the day, he should be on a solid team. And then you're looking at Tank Bigsby. I mean, come on, he's definitely day 2. I think if he goes day 3, that'd be crazy for me because Tank's one of those running backs that I think the NFL is gonna love and like, and he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body and things like that as far as in at Auburn. So I think he'll be definitely be solid. Eric Gray, he's one of those guys that he's had some publicity and some things like where like, man, you were really excited about him for the last couple years, and he really hasn't panned out. He transferred to Oklahoma. Yeah,
He's with Oklahoma now.
Yeah. He went from Tennessee to Oklahoma and things like that. So maybe things are just to pan out a little bit for him this year, and he can kind of show improvement and be on one of those kind of like hybrid kind of running backs and do like a pass catching and maybe could do a little running between the tackles kind of thing. And of course you got Sean Tucker. We definitely already talked about him. Very solid running back. I think he's going to be one of those top running backs. He's going to test really well because he's a really, really good athletic. Just he has a really good athletic profile. He runs track and multiple sport athlete. Things like you want that when you look into dynasty prospects and especially at the running back position. Just multiple sport athlete like that, just a fast guy. You want that, and he has a solid frame and everything to be that guy. And then, of course, your last 3 wide receivers: Ja'Cory Brooks, Emeka Ibuka, and Marvin Mims. They're all very solid wide receivers. Of course, Ja'Cory Brooks and Ibuka, they're the younger guys, and Marvin Mims going to be coming out in the 23 class. So he should be definitely one of those top wide receivers that should be looking at good capital for your squad. So you have like honestly between like, and then Donovan Edwards. I hate to forget about him. Like that's the Michigan guy. So and I really like him on the low. It's just he hasn't really put it out there to kind of make you feel really excited. But I mean, he has a lot of potential too. So you have good like 6, 7 good guys. That's good, and that's all you will want. In a Devy roster there. So I don't know how your dynasty roster is, but you're looking optimistic there. For real.
Yeah. So, and one, I'll show off the rest of the roster. I won't hold it back. But one more thing with Eric Gray, like this dude, I mean, he's had trouble at Tennessee because he's had to worry about other players there, the way they've used him, and he hasn't got just a ton of touches. He's got a couple hundred touches so far in college. Guy averages around 5 yards a carry. I think his low is like 4.9 in 2020, I think, or whatever. But he's averaging 5+ yards a carry every other season. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Oklahoma. I'm cautiously optimistic. I was considering, moving a couple of the guys because some of these guys, Jerkovic and Gray and Vandegrift and, some of these guys I had gotten in the dispersal draft. So I was like, maybe I'll move them and replace them with other guys I want, but I didn't do it. I'm like, I'm going to ride with these guys, see what happens. And we'll go from there. And to Jacob's point, Trey Sanders, he could, Brian Robinson is a guy that people are semi interested in, been going in third round of rookie drafts in most of the leagues I'm in. So I wouldn't be upset if it's a guy that's at least remotely intriguing to somebody, and maybe I can flip him, or maybe he gets the league and he's a depth guy. I wouldn't be upset about it. Right.
I wouldn't be upset. Let me tell you something. I would be upset about it because Trey Sanders should not be the Brian Robinson breakout because no, seriously, they have Jahmyr Gibbs there, they have Jason Cleveland there. I love you, Trey Sanders, and I'm not saying he's not a good running back or anything like that, but Jacob, don't worry about it. He's not going to be that breakout for any Brian Robinson. They have Jahmyr Gibbs there. Jahmyr Gibbs is their running back. He's going to be the running back for Alabama this year. And then if anything happens where he gets hurt or things like that, Jace McClellan is there too. So I'm not Trey Sanders. He's not going to be the breakout of this year for Alabama running backs. He's not.
All right. So there it is. So all right. So now I'm gonna show off the roster. So this is an orphan that I redrafted this year, and this is what I got so far. Quarterbacks, man, I got Ian Book in so many rosters, and I've said this before, and I'll probably say it everywhere I'm at. I don't know why I've got this kid on my roster, other than the fact that he did nothing but win at Notre Dame, right? Like he took them into the playoffs. He just was a productive kid. I don't know what New Orleans doing at quarterback, so I'm gonna hold him and see what happens, just because I don't have anything else to do with this roster. So I got Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, and then a Malik Willis, right? So I got two starters. This is super flex league, and then I got Malik Willis, who some people love him, some people hate him. I'm intrigued to see what happens with him. I think I love the kid. Like that's probably more so than anything that I will hold him for a minute. The kid, the individual, like the person is amazing individual. So I'm like, I'm gonna hold him and see what happens. He's fast, got a big arm. We'll see what happens. Then my running backs are kind of up and down, So Tyler Algier, Kenyon Drake, Myles Gaskins, Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara, Jarrett Patterson, Damian Pierce, and then Kenneth Walker. Now, Algier and Kenneth Walker are guys I took in the rookie draft. So quarterbacks, running backs, what do you think so far?
Well, I do agree with you with Malik Willis. I really do like the kid. I liked him throughout the whole the draft process. Like the interviews with the whole combine, his previous season and everything. And of course, you have Lamar, so you know that's my guy as a Ravens fan.
I know. I'm about to say, I know that was getting you excited.
Yeah, you can't tell me anything bad about Lamar right now. I'm
a fan.
Yeah, I'm riding with him. You know what I mean? Like I think this he's just one of those special guys. One of those special football players. So I really do like that. And then Justin Fields, he's one of those too. Like I do believe in in him as well. He's one of those players that I think that, especially a quarterback, I think he can make his own kind of plays and do what he needs to do to be special. And I think Justin Fields has that in him. He hasn't been able to show that. Of course, last year was his rookie season. I think this year he kind of shows improve. I have invested in him in a couple leagues where I have him as one of my quarterbacks in my leagues and things like that. So I'm really excited about Justin Fields. even though everybody's not really excited about Chicago and what they're doing there, though. I can see why you have some kind of like not like where you're worried about that. I can see why you are though.
Right. And so we'll see what happens. That's why I wanted to grab a couple quarterbacks, throw them on the taxi squad, and see where it goes. So then I got the running backs, and then a wide receiver in the rookie draft. I grabbed Traylon, and I grabbed actually Traylon was one of my picks in the dispersal draft, and then Jameson was my number 2 pick in the rookie draft. To go with Kendrick Bourne, who won't be on my roster long, Brandon Cooks, who I'm a big fan of, and I will keep. Devin Duvernay, who I took a shot on because you never know who the number 2 right now is behind Rashad Bateman. And I love Devin Duvernay coming out of Texas. That kid is, I said it then and I'll say it now, Steve Smith 2.0. That dude is just aggressive. He doesn't take nothing for nobody. Like he will take your lunch money on the way to the end zone. I'm a big fan. D. Eskridge, Christian Kirk, Curtis Samuel, Sterling Shepard, Auden Tate. I grabbed Tylan Wallace because I liked him coming out of OK State. Again, just another chip in that Baltimore passing game, and then Jameson Williams. So my wide receivers are not strong, right? I have probably 3 guys that'll be on my roster in 3 years, and the rest of them, it'll be different, and then at tight end, I'm really weak, but I was able to trade for Brevin Jordan and draft Jeremy Ruckert. So I'm like, all right, I got a couple. I believe there is a premium for tight ends. I think it's like a 1.5 point premium, if I remember correctly. But so it's not the sexiest roster at all. But it's definitely, I can work with it. I just need some tight end help, and I need Brevin Jordan to produce, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So when your wide receivers, how many do you start?
I think I can start 3.
Okay.
So most likely I'm going to be rolling with Cooks, and then if Treylon Burks is the number 1 at the start of the season,
yeah, and then maybe Christian Kirk or something like that.
Probably, probably.
Because I was just saying, you're right. You are definitely thin at the wide receiver, but at the end of the day, you still have some solid guys that you can be productive. So
yeah, and I think I can flex a running back in to help there, because I got a couple extra running backs. I might be able to make it work if I remember correctly. I might be able to make that work so that it isn't insanely difficult for me to field a team this year.
Yeah.
But and I'm okay with it. Like, I took over an orphan. I'm okay with going into it and saying, listen, I'm gonna not gonna be great in year 1. I'm gonna try and maybe make some things happen. And I'm one of those guys that loves come trade deadline because people then know what their roster looks like and they know how they're feeling about their team. And maybe I can get a couple guys that people don't love, and things like that.
So, that's definitely coming down to the trade deadline in Devy leagues is crucial too, because when you know that, just like you said, you can kind of capitalize on anybody that's trying to make a push or anything like that, or try to make their team a little better as far as coming on that end. But then also in the same situation, you can kind of build on your team as well. So yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I like that.
And I don't mind, dangling a couple of these Devies either. So let's say we get into the season and Jerkovic's going off. Well, he's going to be a draft pick next year, most likely. I mean, some people have him as early as day 2. Some people have him, day 3 when you look at the mock drafts. I mean, so if Jerkovic's going off and maybe I'm not as bad as I think I'm going to be, and I can flip him and get something that'll help me, or, I'm not opposed to that because I like my quarterbacks. I got 2 starters and I won a championship last year with 2 starters in another league, and my 2 starters were Joe Burrow and Tua. It wasn't like Tua was carrying my team last year. I mean, he had such an up and down year, but I won a championship with those 2 guys, so I'm like, I'm sure I'll be just fine with Lamar Jackson and even, 30% better Justin Fields than he was last year with a new staff or whatever. Like I'll be all right at quarterback. So I don't mind losing a guy who will be in the league next year. But back to the Devy side of it. So let's look at some of the other picks that went down. So we talked about the first couple, but Braelyn Allen was a guy that we talked about a couple weeks back. He was a little bit further down our list of guys that we were looking at, but he's a guy that gets drafted. Quinn Ewers and Braelyn Allen both went very quickly, and so what do you think about a guy like that going early? I mean, we see Nicholas Singleton, who was a guy that I know you were talking up and had some intriguing feelings about him a couple weeks back. So look at some of these other picks. Is there anyone here that stood out to you that maybe either got overdrafted or underdrafted, or do you just like it? Where are you at with some of these guys?
Well, with looking at the multiple copy league that you're in here, I'm not mad at where people where guys were being picked, because Braelyn Allen, I mean, for what he showed last year, he should be one of those top guys that you should be considering in any kind of Devy league. And then at the end of the day, he was not being picked in Devy leagues last year. I can tell you that for a fact. And he was on Wisconsin's squad. Like, who was getting picked last year? Jalen Berger. Okay, that was the starting running back for Wisconsin last year. And then you had Malusi. I think that's who he was after Jalen Berger had his little situation. And then Braelyn Allen jumped on the scene, and he was able to make things work. And he was able to be just one of those phenom running backs, because he's very young. So I'm not upset over that. You should want to find running backs like that. I mean, you have history with Melvin Gordon. You have history with Jonathan Taylor at this school. So the pedigree is where it's at when you're looking at running back. So you will hope that Braelyn Allen can be that guy, and I'm not mad at that pick either. When you look at it, like even with Nicholas Singleton, he's just one of those freshman phenom, just freshman fever guys. I just loved him. Everything I've seen from him, just watching his tape, I just been truly excited. It just maybe Huddle and whoever does his highlight films, and I don't just watch I watch game tape, like full game tape. It just seemed like he was scoring on every play. Everything he just seems just so explosive, and one of those type of running backs where and then it's in the same situation too. He's at Penn State, so you got Saquon Barkley, you have what's my man from the Eagles, even to an extent with him.
Miles Sanders. Yeah.
Sanders, you know what I'm saying? You have him there, and just stuff like that. It just you look at it, you will hope and think that he's the next guy coming up. So those are the two guys I'm definitely really excited not seeing at that. And then you got Xavier Worthy, one of those freshman wide receivers that he did his thing last year, and he didn't even have Quinn Ewers there, and he had backup kind of caliber quarterbacks, and he went off. So just imagine what he could do with viewers there. So sky's the limit. I like all three of those guys.
Yeah, Allen's interesting. Like I love Allen's story. Converted DB, comes into Wisconsin. He's already, he comes into Wisconsin with the physical tools to be a successful running back. They just got to get him the reps and get him kind of up to speed with it. But I'm a big Allen fan, a big Singleton fan. I think both those guys could potentially develop into day 2 type picks. And I don't mind it in a 2 copy situation, taking a shot on one of them, and seeing what happens. Obviously they weren't going to fall to me, but that's okay. And just basically to the Jacob's question, 2 copy leagues are just that. We have, I believe there's 24 teams in this league, and you can have 2 copies of the guys, because it's basically 2 12-team leagues running all at once, all kind of mashed up together. So every roster but you can't have 2 copies of the same player on the team though. So you can only have 1 copy of the player, but 2 copies of the player are in your league. And it doesn't really mean much other than it just adds to the player pool to choose from, so that you can have more teams in the league, quite honestly. It's really the basics of it. It doesn't, nothing changes.
That's crazy, because that's where I'm getting into gist of the whole thing. Just like I said, like I'm not in any kind of multiple copy leagues, but I've heard about that, and I always wondered what was the process of it. But you literally just explained it. It's the point of having more teams in the league. I get it now.
I mean, and that's it. It's so you can
Yeah,
have more, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's you would think it's something crazy different, and it could be. I mean, you can have some wild scoring in it, but in this situation, it's pretty standard superflex tight end premium with Devy. Your taxi squad can be made up of Devy or rookies, however you want to build it. I just so happen to be building it with only Devys because my roster is not, like we saw, not insanely strong. So I want to have bunch of Devies and see if I, put some chips on the table and see what shoots up and see what I get. So that's it. I mean, there's nothing more or less. I do like the idea of having more teams in the league. I think it makes it more challenging and can be fun come playoff time because you can be facing rosters that look insanely different, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so as we move down, so we're still in the first round because there's 24 picks. So the rest of the first round, was me at Tyler Van Dyke. Then we got Anthony Richardson, Jaden Blue. We got a Brock Bowers. We got two Brock Bowers within 2 picks. Luther Burton was the guy that we talked about from Missouri a couple weeks back. Branson Robinson, which I think you mentioned Branson Robinson, if I remember correctly. Devin Neal, Parker Washington, a guy that was at the bottom of our list. So I do remember this for sure. We were not super big Jackson Dart fans. We were like, I mean, I guess if you get to a point where all these other guys are gone, then you could take a Dart, or I think Grayson McCall was down there for us. There was a couple of quarterbacks at the bottom. I'm like, yeah, sure, if you want to. And then rounded out with another Luther Burden. And then we see Will Levis, who is a guy that we're seeing mocked in the first round. Like, I mean, and I was working on editing Craig's next episode of Player Normal Activity, which is on Roto Heat's YouTube channel. And he had Shane Barrett, FF Shane Barrett from Twitter on there with him. And he was talking about, at the end of the show is like, Will Levis is a name that everyone will know. Like, everybody loves Will Levis. I'm not the hugest fan. I think he's probably going to make the league, and I'm intrigued by him, but I'm like, okay. So back half of the first round, what do you see there? Anything that stands out to you, good, bad, or otherwise?
Well, I mean, just to go off of the Will Levis, I mean, he's definitely been one of those guys that everybody's been kind of talking about within the last like season and coming up on this upcoming season and everything. And we never know. Was it Wandell Robinson? Was it his effect that he was one of those type of players that make him look good, or was it Will Levis? You never know. It comes to that same situation. Like, I mean, and not to the same level, but it's almost like Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. Like, I mean, was Kenny Pickett good, or was Jordan Addison just that much better? I mean, they both was really solid prospects. One is in the league. It was the first quarterback taken off the board in his last draft, and the other one was the Blitnikoff winner as far as wide receiver. So you never know.
If it is the case, Kenny Pickett will be just fine in Pittsburgh. He's got some horses in that stable. Pickens, Johnson, Chase Claypool. I mean, they got some dogs.
Yeah, he's good to go. If Kenny Pickett is not good, he messed up an opportunity, for sure. No, seriously, he literally did. But I mean, Will Levis, I mean, he's looking like a solid prospect. I mean, you had the Branson Robinsons and things like that of the world. I mean, he's gonna be at Georgia. Georgia has a nice little stable of multiple running backs there. So we'll see how he does there. And I mean, I feel like a lot of the picks that was picked there, whatever the case may be, it was worthy of those picks just because of where this draft was at, because it's depleted. But I really like a lot of your picks, though, honestly.
And then we get to the second round. So I kick it off with Dante Demas. Then we see the other Will Levis copy go. The other Jaden Blue copy. Then we see Devin Kane was the guy we talked about a couple weeks back. Raheem Sanders, Drew Aller that was the other quarterback I couldn't think of. The kid from Penn State was at the bottom of our list of guys that we were interested in. JoJo Earl from Alabama. I mean, when it comes to the Alabama players, people they're going to get gobbled up before too long, because that's what happens in Alabama. We got Raheem Sanders, then Cade Klubnik. That's an interesting conversation that I think we probably need to have at some point, is what do we do with Klubnik, DJU? Like, how do we feel about Clemson in that quarterback room? That's a conversation I think would be interesting to have, is kind of where we're at with it. Then Emmanuel Sanders. Well, I mean, obviously, then you see my picks, Moreau and Murphy. Emmanuel Sanders. I'm thinking about wide receiver. Yeah, Emmanuel Henderson, running back, Alabama. Cade Klubnik, the other copy. Then the other copy of my Tyler Van Dyke that I took. And I'm going to get through it quick, because obviously the show's about to end. I want to make sure we get everyone on there. Man, and this kid in the Pinnacle of Devy League, I overdrafted, but I love this kid. Lavasi Carroll was from I believe IMG Academy down in Florida, went South Carolina. I'm a big fan of him. I completely forgot about him as I was drafting. I really should have grabbed a copy of him. Devin Brown, Mario Williams, Catrone Allen, running back, Penn State. Then the other Devin Akane copy. Then Mario Williams, who is an undersized guy, a little bit smaller receiver at USC, but I'm really interested in seeing how he does. I think him with Williams, that'll be a fun combination. Evan Stewart, wide receiver, A&M. We see Devin Brown, Jaden Reed, then the other Lavasi Carroll pick. Trevante Citizen over in Miami. Logan Diggs from Notre Dame. Bo Collinson. Or no, it's Bo Collins. I don't know what's that. I don't know why I put Collins. I don't know why I added that on there. Bo Collins from Clemson. The other Trevante Citizen copy, Devin Neal copy, Tanner McKee. He's one that some people are kind of up and down on. I'm not a huge Tanner McKee guy. Then we see both copies of Michael Trick. This is a guy that transferred to Ole Miss that people have been getting high on or getting hot on, and I'm not sure if I'm there with them yet. But we're starting to see some guys that maybe are a little bit further down and not in our rankings at all, quite honestly. I know that some of these guys, Evan Stewart, Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, Isaiah Neer is a name that I know we've mentioned but not talked a ton about. Byron Cardwell. Then we see JJ McCarthy from Alabama. Then we got from Michigan. Then we got some Alabama guys: Jamarion Miller, Ty Simpson, the quarterback, Jamarion Miller, JJ McCarthy. So you start to get outside of kind of the top, 150. I mean, at this point, these are guys that are probably around the 2 to 250 range in Devy rankings, would be my guess. Any thoughts on some of these other guys that you see? Anybody stand out that you really love or hate or otherwise?
Well, I mean, I really do like. Trig is intriguing. To say that,
Pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really nice spring game, and I mean, he should be solid. He should be one of those top guys for Ole Miss. Hopefully, Jackson Dart and they can get it together there or whatever. He should be solid. I really like Trevante Citizen. He's a really solid running back going there at Miami. He looks the size, he looks the part. When I looked at his tape and things like that. Devin Brown, really solid, really solid quarterback going to Ohio State. Now, mind you, he's going to Ohio State where they are loaded already. They have a million quarterbacks there. So, I mean, you can say what you want to say when it comes to that. So, like, if you don't want to do that Devy wise, I would not be mad at you for not wanting to pick him up, but I really like Devin Brown. I looked at him; he's legit. When I looked at his tape, the way he throws is, I mean, just his accuracy, his arm strength, his pocket presence, just his footwork, things like that. He looks the part. To me, I just hate that he's at Ohio State because they always getting the best. It's almost like how Alabama is. You would be excited about one of your favorite prospects going there, but then you wouldn't to an extent because you would think like the next year they can get like the next guy. And that's how it is with these kind of programs. So you gotta roll with the punches when it comes to that. So if you really feel adamant about a prospect like that, then you got to do. So, but when it comes to quarterback, yeah, just like I said, Ohio State or Raiola, yes, he's the next guy.
His dad played center for the Lions for a long time.
Yeah,
this kid's legit.
Timothy, yes, he's it. Yeah, I like him too. He's one of those guys.
But how long is he going to wait behind these dudes, right?
He's gonna be waiting 2-3 years, or he's gonna go into the transfer portal. But the transfer portal is kind of done some things to make it a little to relax where you're gonna go and things like that. But like they're gonna kind of tighten that up too, man. So you gotta kind of tread softly when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I like Rayola too. Rayola is good. He's good too.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I love the way that they've laxed the transfer portal rules because, a guy like this, so a guy like Dylan Raiola would have been stuck at Ohio State for years, not getting reps, not getting a lot of reps, not getting the proper, a lot of the proper looks that he should. And then, maybe if he gets lucky, he gets a year of play time before he either doesn't make it to the league because nobody's seen him play in 4 years, or he's a late round pick because he didn't get much playing. Like I'm glad the transfer portal is what it's become. I think they need to continue to make the league better and do some things there. But I'm with you, Timothy. I mean, another 5-star guy, another in the long line of OSU quarterbacks that come in legit, and it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around. I mean, because that's a great thing about the transfer portal is guys can bounce if they really don't feel like they're going to get a look anytime soon. And I don't blame them. I mean, your goal, your dream has been to make the NFL, and you decide to go to a big name program because you want to get the best coaching, the best workout, the equipment, the best everything. But, there's not much you can do about it. Arkansas has been on top of the portal. I mean, and that's how you have to do. If you're one of these schools that I don't want to say can't recruit, but doesn't get strong recruiting classes just because of either being in the SEC and you're fighting, the Bamas of the world, then you hit that portal and you get them kids and you work it that way, right? Like you can still build a good roster through the portal. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's like if you're a crappy fantasy manager and you don't draft well, just hit the trade market, baby. Go get them trades done and get your roster built that way. So
that's
but
funny.
still connected. So that's it. I'm not going to go through the rest of the draft because I wanted to touch on, so 2 weeks ago show, we went through and we created a big board, and I want to show y'all the big board getting used. A couple of picks were picks that I just probably I got too excited about because I've been studying on some of these freshmen coming in. So that I deviated the board a little bit, but the first 3 picks were from the board based on our conversations a couple weeks back. So I wanted to show y'all that I followed what we were talking about to the best of my ability, minus the fact that I was a little off on some of the players that have been taken because I missed a tab. So that's it. So we won't do this every week. I won't review a bunch of drafts every week, but I did want to review this draft because I thought it would be a good practice in talking about what Devy-Depleted drafts look like and helping people prepare.
Yeah.
And the big takeaways for me is get your guys. So if you're in a Devy-Depleted draft and you have some players that you really love that are available, don't be afraid to get them. Don't be afraid if people are going to mock you. Like I had plenty of guys, even in my chat today. Jason had this league is still drafting, and I've been done drafted for like 3 rounds because I got all my picks in and out early. And I made a joke. I was like, "Oh, y'all still drafting?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're finally drafting guys you took 3 rounds ago." I was like, "Oh, so you're finally making good draft picks then?" Like we just busting each other's chops, back and forth on there. And
yeah.
But it stands to reason that I drafted the guys that I really wanted, I really liked, and I really think have potential. And in the end, if you're in a Devy-Depleted draft, my encouragement to you is to draft the guys that you like. Doesn't matter what other people think. And if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I do. I will definitely echo that statement there. Just being in the Devy League, that's where you can be in a situation and go out there and take chances and and go out there and if you're following any kind of different accounts and things like that on Twitter, or if you're following any kind of content creators and things like that, like Roto Heat Fantasy, when we have Devy rankings, we have dynasty rankings and things like that. Or what I can honestly say about anything, figure it out for yourself. Come up with your own plan, just like you said. It's the best you'll be more happy about that. And it's not, I wouldn't necessarily say settling, because we should all be out here trying to win fantasy championships. Please be out here to win fantasy championships. But with that being said, but get your guys, be confident in which who you want to go out here and pick up and things like that, because at the end of the day, your favorite fantasy analyst is not winning championships. I'm telling y'all. Like, at the end of the day, they are just like you and me. We are all the same. We all breathe the same air. We all looking at the same process and things like that. So please do not think that you're thinking the wrong things. Just trust your gut and go out there and pick your guys, because that makes it way more fun. And go out there and win, man. I always say that all the time. That made me love the Devy and C2C platforms and things like that, because you go out there, you can do your thing, and you have, if you're a part of the right leagues and the right league mates, they'll make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. I'm with you. So that's it for the show this week. I do appreciate y'all hanging out and just kind of listening to us bounce ideas back off each other and see what we thought about this draft. Next week, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Devy sleepers. Then we're going to be hitting some of our favorite 5 stars, and then some of our favorite 4 stars. So the next few weeks, we got shows. We're excited. We're ready to roll. We are going to take a break for 4th of July week. My boy Des over here is going to be getting back, getting some vacation time and going and hanging out and relaxing and enjoying some warm weather. And then we'll got a few shows after that. And then I'm going to take a little vacation, go down to Florida and get out and enjoy some weather. So we've got plenty of shows lined up. So, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. You stay up to date with when we go live on Thursdays. We may even sprinkle some guests in. I every so often I try to bring in some of my friends from the community and just chop it up with some different cats. But I like you guys more than anybody. So you guys in the chat, I do appreciate y'all hanging out and chopping it up with us and having a good time. Sometimes you got to call me out when I say something crazy, and I love it. But sometimes we just like to shoot it back and forth and just have a good time. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Rotoheat.com. You can find Jason, Des, Craig, and Maya's Devy rankings. Articles. We'll be getting some more articles fired up. I know Rick's been doing a bunch of undervalued wide receivers. I'm working on some IDP stuff too. So I'm not on Devy at the moment. I got a couple of IDP articles I want to get out. And then I'm going to get back to some Devy stuff. So keep it locked in, rotoheat.com. Keep it locked in here on YouTube. And thanks, Des. It's good talking to you, brother. And we'll talk to everybody next week.
Absolutely.